Aloha, Flow Riders, and welcome to this edition of The Flow. I am your co-host, Doc Rock, along with my awesome co-host.
Hey, everyone, it's Katie.
I don't know why it's funny to me still. It's like, when we were like 98 or something, it's still funny to me. I have no idea why.
I think this might be 100. I don't even know
100?
anymore.
I just know it's a
We
lot.
might just be like quietly in 100. Are we quietly in 100, Louise? Oh, he's on mute.
muted.
You're on mute. Wait, where's my sign?
He muted in the house by himself.
That's a sign of a good producer. Make sure that you're on mute always. But no, we're at 99, episode 99 today.
99.
And
All right,
100
good.
will be
99.
next week.
Great.
Oh, wow.
We're excited.
We're going to bring a birthday cake.
Yeah.
All right, Case, what are we talking about today?
Well, we're on like an update journey over the last couple of episodes. And so today we're talking about podcast structure. So if you missed last week's episode, the full episode dropped today. And we talked all about intros and outros. Well, this is all of the stuff in between. So these are companion episodes. Hopefully you can go back if you haven't watched or listened to that one. But today we're going to dive into all of the different elements that you need in order to have a really successful podcast structure. But we should keep in mind, as we have been reminding you every single episode, this is a uniquely personalized experience. So everything that we say here is advice, but you really should be taking that and making your own, testing and trying, making iterations and changes as you go, and just getting a little bit better every single time. That's what we're doing. We're in it to get better.
Listen, I am here for this. I love this so much, especially because I was editing something yesterday and it ran across one of my rants about like all strategy is autobiographical. Yep. Because I have watched not just myself, a whole bunch of our friends, a whole bunch of us included, like try to run down the rabbit hole of somebody else's strategy. And it just doesn't work. Like, it just doesn't. I haven't found, okay, I'll take it back. I have found one strategy ever that somebody else has come up with that I think kind of works just the way it is for me. Always you have to make adjustments, right? And so I think it's easier to explain it from the aspect of if we were doing some kind of culinary situation, right? And so in this culinary situation, we're learning all of these really cool things, but it's like, oh, you know what? Scarlett can't eat tree berries. So when we get to the part about, some kind of blueberry, whatever, you're like, all right, I'm going to just substitute that with apples. That she's cool with apples, but blueberries doesn't work for her. Right? Which sounds like a weird allergy, except for my niece Ava. She can't eat tree berries. I don't know I never heard of that before.
I never heard of a tree berry before. I have some research.
I guess maybe it's tree nuts. Maybe the berry part is just berries in general. But I was like, kid, you're killing me, because like I used to love our blueberry cheesecake at the holidays, and now we don't get that. but yeah. So you know what I mean? Like not being the vegan, going to Ruth Chris and yelling at them because they don't have something on the menu. It's Ruth Chris Steakhouse. Like that's not their job. They're not thinking about you. And so I think a lot of people get caught up just trying to pick up this thing because it sounds like a shortcut. And what I have found almost in every situation, and thank you honestly to Kat, who first put this nugget in my head, and then the nugget grew like mycelium. Kat said a long time ago, don't download another Notion template. Just stop. And I was like, why? They're kind of cool. And she goes, how much times when you go in there, you get into a corner because it doesn't work the way your brain thinks? And I'm like, oh, pretty much always. And then I don't know how to get out of this corner because I'm not Notion like you. Here's the reason why we're having this call. She goes, yeah, you can look at them for inspiration, but you should probably never really use a template because A, you're never going to learn how to use Notion. And then B, it's never going to be what you want. And so you're always working with a broken system. And I was like, Cap freaking Moverhill, top of the morning to you. So thank you for that. And before we start, I want to say something real quick to Natalie. It's kind of funny because she dropped the question, what's the best strategy to help narrow the focus and topic for her first podcast and crafting a name for it? And well, I mean, it's kind of sort of almost what we're talking about today.
Well, I actually want to answer this one because structure brings focus is like the theme of today's episode. I will say, Natalie, if it is helpful for you, I've been living in a world for the last, probably like actively for the last year, where I'm using ChatGPT and a number of other different AI tools to help me think through some of these things. So if you're really struggling with what is my focus, what kind of topics, episode ideas, outlines, like all of the sidekick intern work, outsource that to your favorite AI tool, whatever one you think works best for you or, helps you do it. And honestly, and shout out to Jeff C., another incredible podcaster, part of the Ecamm fam. He's got me really thinking about it. Like he literally just talks into his phone, like talks, not types, talks to his AI, to his AI overlord or assistant in this case. But that really helped me thinking through, okay, actually I think I want to have a show on movies. I think I really want to only talk about 80s movies. I really want it to feel very fun and casual. Here are a couple of my favorite movies. Just talk to AI that way and say I need some, I need a focus. I need some topic ideas. I need some episode ideas. And then as it starts giving you that feedback, start helping, use that tool to help you put that into a structure. Okay, actually, I like, these 3 topics that you gave me, and I really like this kind of, this show is an example. How can I feed that in and build that into a structure? So not to pass the buck, but I think we're living in such a cool time where there's just so many tools that simplify what used to be really hard for creative people, right? If you're a creative person, it's really hard to think through what the best structure is, what the best, topics are. You just want to be creative and just want to be able to see that. And in follow up, Natalie's asking about AI prompts.
No
I
problem.
don't even have a prompt. I'm literally just talking to it as if it's a person. I'm literally saying
I have
things
a video on my channel.
"Hey, how's
Natalie.
it going?"
I'm looking for it right now. I'm going to send it to you in a second. But
Awesome.
I've done 3 videos on my channel showing people how to just talk to it and
Just talk to
have
it,
it.
yeah.
What I had it do was I was trying to develop a brand voice, and I had it interview me for a brand voice. And the reason why I needed it to help me do a brand voice is because it's not just my voice, it was my voice and Mary Lou. And I wanted to make sure that we had some decent representation that would cover both she and I. So basically, all I did was Chad, sorry, I just used the name. Hey, Chad. And then we just started talking. And I have that video on my channel. I have 2 of them, one with Chad and one with
perfect.
Gemini. And then I had another one where I'm just doing it randomly. So yeah, I will find that link for you and send it to you in the chat in just a second.
I love that. So yeah, I honestly I can't say that enough. You be the creative person with your fun ideas and use these tools to be the nerdy sidekick that gives you all of the structure for it. Honestly, today's episode brought to you by Chad. I was like, I want to talk about this. Please put these ideas into a structure for me. I literally the outline that I'm looking at right now, entirely brought to you by ChatGPT. My fun ideas, but it structured it all in a way that was just approachable for me to reference and, make sure that we're going through all of the content in the way that we want to go through it. So yeah, it goes a really long way. I'm just reviewing actually to make sure that we're not missing anything. Doc, I want to get your vibe. So you've been doing podcasting for forever. If I say episode structure to you, what are some of your favorite kinds of episodes as far as structure goes? Talk me through some examples. I know in my mind how you structure most of your shows, but what's your perfect or your favorite kind of structure for a podcast episode?
Well, okay, so a couple of different things. For me, from a listener standpoint, I love a good news show, and maybe, and I don't mean like news in, hey, the weather's going to be holy crap, 64. That's freezing. The weather's going to be 64 degrees a day kind of news show. So for instance, I've been in tech forever and a day, and we always had this sort of idea of the morning tech news show. Mac OS Ken is one of my favorites. Of course, our friends Dave Hamilton and from Mac Geek Gab, and those guys are the best. So it's like taking something from an industry that we know and love and basically give a rundown on the things that I may have missed if I'm out here trying to curate Jesus, Doc, trying to curate all that knowledge myself, right? So going in and finding a show like that, I just absolutely love. And then when it comes to like trying to teach someone something, I sort of like the idea of say what you're going to talk about, like we just did, and then talk about it like we're fixing to do, and then close it up into like a little bundle, but most importantly, put an impact or an actionable thing at the end. I feel like way too many people out here teaching people stuff, but don't give anybody the next step. And everybody is done with your lesson going, okay, cool, fam. What's the next step? And they don't know. So yeah, I think that's it for me. I
think you literally just covered it. So according to our friend Chad, I asked Chad, here is what the ideal podcast episode structure is so that you could be informed with all of us. So according to ChatGPT, the ideal podcast episode structure starts with a hook, an intro, right? We talked about that last week. So how can you grab attention immediately? How can you set expectations, welcome people, start kind of building excitement for what topic you're talking about? You know, all the different things that make up your show. So all the different branded elements. Maybe that's an intro, intro scene, like music, like what we did for bringing on this show. All the different pieces of kind of the hook and the welcome and the intro. Then there's the main content, right? So like the actual nuts and bolts of your podcast. Some people segment this up into different content, like blocks, right? So like I keep talking about the Tony and Ryan podcast, which I love. Like they have specific segments. Like some segments only run on particular days because they're a daily podcast. Some segments are, all the time. Like for example, they now added a new segment where they Google things on Fridays. So you can tune in on Friday for their Let's Google This Together segment. And so throughout their show, they like jokingly, if there's something that they don't know, they literally have their producer write it down so that they can Google it on Friday, right? So that's a segment, an idea of a segment. Another could be, like this is the part of the show where we go to voicemails and we take voicemails. That could be a segment. So that's an option. We actually don't segment this show. We started by doing that, and it just didn't really seem like it worked for us. So we just kind of have the main content that we go through in a very conversational way, and we take questions throughout. So that's the main content of the show. Then obviously, as Doc said, you would move to a call to action, or maybe it's an engagement break. So it's like, what can people do next? How are you listening to your audience and kind of connecting with them? What are the different ways? How can they give you feedback? Are there like polls or quizzes or things that you can pull through, or contests, etc.? And then there's the conclusion or the outro, which again, we talked about last week, where you're going to recap and summarize everything, send them on their way, let them know where they can connect with you if that's important to you, or how to continue listening or continue watching. So it really is that simple. Like that's the structure. It's that simple. That's the ideal, according to the internet, podcast episode structure. But you have a lot of flexibility in what each of those elements are. And there's nothing saying that you can't change them. We're literally changing this show starting today, right? What we learned last week in intros and outros, we applied to today's show. So again, it's the hook, the intro, the main content or the body of the episode, the call to action / like engaging with your audience, and then the conclusion and the outro. That's it. Those are the pieces of your show. Everything else under those is completely personalized, editable, changeable, can ebb and flow as your show grows over the years. Anything I missed, Doc? What do you think?
No, I love that. So the breakdown makes a whole lot of sense. And I think the biggest thing is assuming that it has to be like the total smoke show out of the gate. Like I had the weird pleasure of growing up during the very beginning. I remember ESPN day one. Like I remember watching the very first episode and what it looked like then in comparison to now is so absolutely crazy. And it isn't just the tech. Like they just sat at a table and talked sports for a whole half an hour, which was freaking heard of. The idea of a sports thing not being a 5-minute segment in the middle of the normal drab of what's going on in your local community was just crazy. And the funny thing is, back then we didn't have cable yet, so I had this boombox radio that had a little TV on it, and I had like a Hill Brother coffee can stuck with a wire, and I could point it a certain way and steal the signal, and it would come into the little teeny TV that was in the radio, and I used to just watch it like it was the best thing on TV. And the fact that it just kept repeating was just incredible to me. So, don't think you have to come out of the gate with this amazing situation. And then I also look at things like Oprah, who went from this elaborate network, and she still has, but I mean, her TV show and the whole 9 yards, to now she sits in her backyard in Maui with a Shure SM7B and a cup of coffee. And she talks to people who are richer than any of us will ever be. And that's her show now. Her show is her sitting in the backyard with an SM7B, which I'm doing right now, but I'm in the basement. Oprah and I are using the exact same tech right now. So just know that your show can both grow, but at the same time, don't worry that it has to be some elaborate production. That will come with you like anything else. You become a better walker, better talker, hopefully better driver as you go along. And I've been to Katie's neighborhood, better driver, missed that community. But
Oh my gosh. And sometimes like the ideas fail too. And like that, those are the kind of the learning moments, right? So like when I started the VHS Club podcast, in my mind, I was like, okay, well, it's movies. We're talking old movies. I worked at Blockbuster for years. So I was like, oh, it would be really fun to have a segment where like we share Blockbuster stories or like video rental movie stories. And we did that, I think, for like one episode, maybe two. And it just felt like, ooh, like it was like taking time away from talking about the movies. It just like, it didn't feel good. I don't think anyone really overly enjoyed it. No one was like begging for us to do it the next week. So, so we just scrapped it. And so, now we don't have any kind of segments. Are there other segment ideas or like things that I want to do with the show going forward? Yeah, probably. Will I test some of them out? Yeah. Will some of them work? Maybe. Will some not? Yeah, probably. Like there's probably going to be some that are epic failures. So yeah, I think that's a really good point. Like I think you need to have obviously like a structure for your show, but that could mean anything. Like, again, like the point is to actually just do the show and to be constantly listening to what your community is saying. Like maybe there's some ideas that they're going to suggest to you that you didn't even think about, it for this show. Again, like the intro that we were doing was a countdown timer and we were like, oh, maybe this doesn't actually work. And maybe people would actually just like to see what we're doing behind the scenes. So this was, our first take at trying this out. Maybe you all hate it and we don't do it again, or maybe you really enjoy it. But yeah, I totally agree, Doc. I think it's worthwhile always kind of seeing what other people are doing as well, because as you said, like people who Oprah is doing cool and crazy, interesting things that you could replicate. Like you can now replicate in your home. It's nuts.
You don't need a studio audience and hide a bunch of books under the chair and things of that nature. Like in a way, I'm looking at the overall outline that I just made chat non-binary, but being a computer, it's absolutely binary. That's how computers work. So I like the breakdown of the sort of hook of the intro and then the main content body, then the call to action, conclusion, things like that. And I think that is fine. But I also think that you can make it work for you how it works. Some people, depending on the type of show that they're going to do, are going to throw a massive call to action in the beginning because maybe that call to asking, see what I was saying? Maybe that call to asking is to ask the community a question that you are going to then talk about during the show. I've even seen shows that launch where it's like, okay, guys, you guys are going to give us the topic today, and then we're going to run with that. Lou and I have done that now that I think about it. We have gone in and say, hey, we've just been traveling. This is a hot mess. You guys tell us the topic. We read in, we get like 10 answers, and we just pick one, and we run with it. Couple of things that are important about that. And this is where I'm going to use words that I can't absolutely stand, but I'm only going to use this for your clarity. Okay?
I'm excited.
First of all, I think confidence is oversold and it's total BS. If you don't trust you, why the hell should I trust you? So, like, I'm not confident, then don't sell it. If you're not confident, quit. I'm going to be an a-hole and say that. Because if you don't believe you, why should any of us? You're basically wasting our time if you don't have confidence in your knowledge. I trust Katie to know everything there is to know to help me if I wanted to start sewing. I ain't going to say the word weebles, wobbles, warbles. Dang it, I always get it wrong. Whatever those fluffy things are, dang it.
And you crochet them, but you're close. This is why you trust me.
See, you know what I'm saying? Like, sorry, I even used all the wrong words. But if I was going to jump into this game, Katie has enough back knowledge to help me through it, and she would not blink an eye to explain it. Oh my God, you're going to love this. All you got to do is so and so and so, right? If we're going to go to find Mexican food in headquarters, Katie's going to be like, listen, you ain't even got to go that far, fam. You walk across the street, but don't jaywalk. Ken will get mad. Go to the corner and walk around. Yep. But just go across the street, and talk to Juan, or Maria, because that's the staff.
Yeah.
No joke. We're not clowning. That's the staff. And, she knows exactly like what to get or whatever. So you already know enough, and then sort of second guessing yourself will come off in the show, right? Yeah. So in theory, you shouldn't even fire up the show unless you are engaged enough in the topic where you could talk for at least a half an hour without anybody prodding you or prompting you. If you can do that, you're good to go. And no, please do not understand that you have to be an expert. I could be so absolutely curious in the publishing world that I have not published a thing. But Katie worked there for a long time. So I have at least 100 questions for Katie. I can generate 100 episode podcast about how to get into the publishing world. What's the dark side? What's the light side? What are the pluses, the minus, where to go, how to have weird flat tire road trips, like the whole 9 yards. I could have an entire 100 episode podcast with Katie talking about that. And then we'd probably come up with more questions, so it would turn into 150. Yeah. And that could be the show. No one says a podcast doesn't need to have a finite end. The most famous podcast of all, Serial, 12 episodes or 15, whatever. You know the answer. But that was it. And then it disappeared for 3 years, and then they came back and did another one. But it started out the gate intending to only be that many episodes.
Yep. This is a great question coming in from Joel. I'm going to take this one because I'm the nerdy organizational geek. Joel wants to know about building out your content calendar well in advance. Do you recommend doing that? Or do you recommend shooting it all in batches, or one at a time planning an episode and shooting it and on to the next? Okay, so we are definitely, the answer to this is going to be unique to you, what your time is like, how your mindset works, like who you are as a person, a million other things. What I will say is everything Doc just said, even though I am the most organized, like geeky person when it comes to like, I need to have like a checklist and a outline and a plan, and I like to schedule things out. Both the shows that I do, so both my personal show and this one, we very, very rarely have more than maybe like a couple of bulleted notes, because as Doc said, we know our stuff. So like, we know, like if we've decided that we're going to talk about, podcast structure, we've done podcasting enough and we've bumped up in enough different issues and we know the ins and outs of it well enough to be able to talk about that, whether or not I have an outline in front of me, whether or not I've done detailed notes, all of that. Same for movies, right? Like I can just watch the movie and then I can get on the show and talk about my experiences watching the movie. Like I don't need a huge outline. I will say for like batching and recording episodes, for us, what is easy and most effective is for us to live stream our recording process, which then requires us to schedule it out so that you all know when to show up, what the topic is going to be, etc. So we are a couple weeks out on the episodes because we need a thumbnail created, we need a description, we need to get all that information into YouTube so that you the live audience who join us every week know what we're going to talk about. But that's it. Like, I don't have a huge content calendar that has like the next 6 months of episodes worked out because, again, as Doc said, like maybe there's questions that are going to come from all of you. Maybe there's like some crazy new update, at YouTube or in podcasting in general that we want to discuss and talk about. So we have a lot of flexibility, but that doesn't mean we don't have a structure, right? So we have a structure, we have a plan, but we know our stuff. And so we don't need to kind of overthink all of the details. And what we commit to is showing up when we say we're going to show up, right? So we are going to be here every Tuesday, 12 p.m. Eastern live. And then the episode releases the following Tuesday, right? Like that's our structure. That's our format. So if that's batch recording for you, great. If that works really well for your brain and that's what you want to do, awesome. If that's that you need a really detailed like checklist and to-do list and you need a really detailed outline, also awesome. But like you probably don't need a huge amount of details that are going to distract you from the actual content itself, because hopefully your podcast is about something that you're passionate about. And you could, as Doc said, you could turn the camera on and just speak about. So research is great, but knowledge and confidence are better. So don't stray into an area where you can't just turn on a camera and answer questions or speak about it.
Yeah. And well, if you think about it, your show is really unique in the sense that you sometimes something would happen where you might want to go and talk about a subject. Oh my God, talk about a subject because it's lively or it matches a current thing, which is why I personally hate batching. I like to be topical. For instance, we just lost Quincy, one of the greatest, and so you could want to talk about The Color Purple, or you could want to talk about The Wiz, or you could talk about Keep On Keeping On. These are movies that Quincy made, and it's like everybody knows about his music game, but how many people know about his movies, right? Or, maybe you happen to meet Rashida at a conference and get her on the show, and so I like the idea. Okay, here's my problem. My problem with batching is my same problem I have with overplanning stuff. I am ex-military. Thank you, Chris. The only other one of me I see in the chat. Anybody else, represent yourselves. When we have a contingency, we know what to do because we train for problems. You guys who plan perfect never plan for what to do in a contingency. You just don't. Why? You guys don't have that training, or you think everything is going to be all good. And Mike Tyson done explained it to you. Everybody has a plan until they get punched in the face. So what happens when people who plan for perfect and never plan for a contingency? They get smacked in the face from anything, from a snowstorm to the internet went bad, the guest didn't show up, or, the baby is crying, co-host got a fever. And they just lose it. They don't know what to do. Head off, everything crooked. So if you're going to be a hyper planner, please also plan for what do you do when it doesn't go right. Because if not, then you come to the internet telling everybody of these fancy words like burnout and overwhelm and make me want to hurt you. Because there's no such freaking thing. Number one, it's not in the DSM-5, not even close. And overwhelm is hurricane, earthquake, Gulf War, my podcast host didn't show up and now I got to do more stuff than I'm used to do. I'm sorry you don't get to use that word. That word does not match the occasion. And it's unfair to people who actually go through difficult stuff that a bunch of boxes and Ecamm triggers the word overwhelming your brain because social media made it cute. It's like social media got people calling OCD when they don't have OCD. And that's why I get so frustrated about it. So if you are going to be a hyper planner, plan for contingencies so your brain doesn't break when it doesn't go your way. And that's what I'm sorry, it sounds mean. That's my military training. I am ready for everything. And I cannot do what I did in the Army. But trust me, we have enough food in the house for when the hurricane hits Hawaii. We, probably Chris too, because he lives down the street from me. We are not the guys at Costco the day that they tell us the hurricane coming trying to buy toilet paper and water. I guarantee you, without even knowing Chris that well, other than he lives down the street, He got water and toilet paper and Spam in his house if that's what they eat. He has meals ready to eat because that's our training. So we're ready, right? The news going to come on today. Oh, there's going to be a big storm Thursday. Bro, you couldn't find a drink of water in any store in the state of Hawaii because all these people are panicking because they're not. We get that every 3 months, fam. How do you not have the same water from the last time? Anyway, I'm sorry. I just went sideways. That's my only problem with the batching mentality.
Well, it is interesting. So again, I'm going through my notes. So I actually have notes today. But the cool thing about like having notes, but also just knowing your stuff is that it allows you to go off and take questions and do like, and share experiences and actually like benefit your community with the answer, right? So I think it's cool. But what I wanted to point out, which I actually think is hilarious, again, I had ChatGPT help me put together this outline, right? So so it is really funny that ChatGPT confirms exactly what you just said, Doc. So in thinking through, like in pro tips from AI on how to craft your episode formula, right? So it does say, like, think through a plan and potentially like an outline or a script if you're a script person. We're obviously not. But it says, think through the importance of outlining before recording. And then it says, and let's say it for the people in the back, balancing detailed planning with room for spontaneity. So you will not be able to do this well in this space if you don't, as Doc said, have a backup plan. If you don't know that sometimes your plan might go to heck and someone, might ask you a different question, and you might have to just fall back on yourself, your knowledge, your confidence, all the stuff that made it so that you started this whole thing in the first place. So again, don't do a show on a topic that you can't speak about for, I don't know, hundreds of hours or whatever you thresholds you want to give it. And do allow some level in your planning. I say this as a geeky planner, do allow some level of planning in your podcasting structure, in your, day-to-day workflow for your podcast to allow for spontaneity, or you will be in trouble. You will 100% be in trouble. Like something will come up and you will not know how to deal with it. So just have the notes if they make you feel better, but know that if it doesn't show up or if things go crazy or if Doc goes off on a crazy tangent, that you can get things back on track. You know your stuff. You know how to get through it. So I think it is really important.
I love it. Love it. And thank you to Tora and John who are saying everything that people need to hear. It drives me crazy to watch somebody swim and answer. I don't know. Let me call an expert. I don't know. Let me Google that for you. We just like you said on Tony and Ryan. Let's Google it live.
Yeah, let's Google it.
I might not know the answer, but I will say that my Google food is a solid black belt. So, like, let me go with it. So, if nothing else, you're going to learn how to Google something properly, right? Yeah. So, I love the idea. I don't know. I'll find out, like Val said. But Tora, thank you for that, and John, thank you for the follow up. Because I think it's important that people hear this, especially when we go to like Podfest. This was something that came up a lot for me. Well, I've been doing this for a year, but I'm no expert. I go, you have a year head start on me. I want to hear what you learned in this last year. Break that up into 10 episodes and let's go. I'm in. Right? People think that, like, you have to be, I have a master's degree in ancient Greek literature. I don't care, bro. I'd rather learn it from Katie because there's well, it's not even a parasocial relationship for us. I actually know you. Right. But like, I'd rather learn it from a friend. And I swear to you, I've heard this confirmed so many times in my head. People want to learn from somebody who they can catch, right? I don't want to learn golf from Tiger. I want to learn golf from Saeed because give me 6 months, I can catch up to him. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like that's a better option. I don't want to try to learn it from somebody who's so far ahead of me that becomes unobtainable because that just messes with my psyche. And I feel that's most people. And Paul is bringing up, let me Google that for you. I brought that up before because I asked the chat how many people remembered that website. That website was so good. And that's because you said Tony and Ryan do the, let's Google this together. Like, oh my God, I love that site. That was my favorite.
Well, I love it. I want to go through some common pitfalls so that hopefully this helps some people. Again, none of these are surprising, and we've actually mentioned almost all of them in our rambly in our rambly Katie and Doc way. But okay, so common pitfalls and how to avoid them. Number one, overcomplicating everything, including your structure, right? Like if you overcomplicate it, including the planning and the structure, you are going to fail. It's going to not go well. It will be really bumpy. It's not good. Don't do it. As an overthinker, I'm with you on it. Let's just not do it. Trying to do too much in one episode or in one show, right? Like if you fit in so many different segments into an episode, it's going to feel like completely crazy. So just pick one thing and give it a try. And if it works, then do it again next week. And if it doesn't, then replace it with something different. Keep it really simple and really focused as much as you're able to. So one topic per episode, one movie review if you're doing movie reviews, one, whatever it is that you're doing, one simple thing, right? Make it as simple as possible. This next one is Doc's absolute favorite. I'm ready for him to like nod and give me like a fist bump. Stop over complicating all of the tech, right? So like stop putting 9 million different graphics on screen and cool transitions and like shabam noises and all the different, just because you can do it doesn't mean you should. It's just going to make it more likely for you to mess up, more likely to distract everyone, confuse people. Like it, just focus on like the content and you. I even like, honestly, the next phase for us here at The Flow, I think is even simplifying like our graphics down, getting just a little bit more gritty so that you're not as distracted by like all of the beautiful things and are more focused on just the content itself. So, and then, and this one actually I am bad at, I talked about last episode. So this is just one I'm working on, but is making sure that you can think through how to shift and flow from one topic to the next or from one thought to the next, as well as, shifting between your intro, your main content and your outro. I'm getting better at this, but just get better at it. Join me in just focusing and getting better at it. And then the last one we're really good at.
Last week was good because you're learning this, and the way you pulled that in to close it out, so you guys didn't go too long, was pretty talented.
Thank you. There you go. So yeah, work on it. I'm working on it. And then the last one is never neglect your audience or your community, right? Which I actually think we're pretty good at, and mostly because of our structure, because we take this show live, right? So, and we bring you into the experience of creating the show. Technically, this episode doesn't release for another week, but we're here. We're live on YouTube. We're allowing feedback. Your feedback might affect the entire, episode and how we do things. We're chatting with you. We're thrilled and delighted that you're here. So I think those are kind of the big pitfalls to avoid, but you'll notice that none of those were the big picture things. Those are like little details, right? So like, again, the big picture is just have some kind of intro, main content, some kind of outro, call to action, right? Like those are your pieces. Everything else under that are all things that you can get better at, learn from your mistakes, grow, figure it out.
And you can have one segment. Your one segment can be, okay, so for instance, for Creators Unstuck, Lou and I have technically one segment, which started out as Pick of the Week. But then 3 weeks in a row, Lou came up with these rapid fire questions for me at the end, just to shake the cage. And now it's a thing. Like if we didn't have rapid fire questions, I think people would get pissed. They're like, hey, well, I thought you were going to grill Doc. Because I think they just watch, I think people, this is going to sound corny, but I think my people enjoy watching me have to pull an answer out of the sky really, really quickly, thinking.
Sure.
But that's proof positive and I know what I'm talking about, or I just believe what I'm saying so much that I don't need. So people ask this all the questions.
Is it true or not? We don't know, but Doc says it quickly.
Well, you can check, but I think this comes up oftentimes in conferences, right? Something breaks and they say, hey, can you do a panel? Absolutely. How can you just do a panel like that? Because I know what the hell I'm talking about. You got 3 other people want to come. I can do it by myself. Just tell me what you want to do. I have gone to conference facilitators and saved a missing speaker because can you just go up there and do a random panel on X? Yes, no problem. Because I could come in as the curious one because I know nothing, which happened at People of Video. Or I can come in as the expert and talk with other experts. It's either way. Like I can literally go do a panel about Ayurvedic medicine And I know nothing about that. I can't even spell it. I know the word, but I could sit on the panel right now and just generate an entire hour show about Ayurvedic medicine because I'm a curious individual. I know how to ask questions. And there's a couple good books about how to ask questions. Speaking of questions, I want to make sure we cover this for Natalie. I think this is so important, and I'm sort of glad that she asked the question. And I also see that Murray asked the question. And I love Murray because he's the only person in history to ever get a live unstucking at camp. So he still gets the badge because Podfest Mary Lou couldn't come. And so, well, actually, no, I take it back. Maybe the 4 people that we helped in our session, Martha especially, because she made me cry. Martha was really cool. Anyway, Natalie said, will obtaining a podcast booker for guests help grow your podcast show quicker? I have so many questions. First of all, I'm going to give you an answer, which I will stand fast on. No. Why? Because you don't need it. I don't. Let's fix this. Let me say it from my perspective. And again, all strategies are autobiographical, so this is the way I see it. You can do whatever you want. I don't think growing the show quicker is a thing. Matter of fact, I think it will break you because what it can cause to happen is the curse of virality. Any one of us who has ever had any smell of a viral video is I had a video go to 750,000 views in a really short time, and it still gets a lot of views to this day, but there's no way I could replicate that fire in the bottle. That fire in the bottle happened because I made a tutorial that a famous celebrity watched because they were in a concert and their computer broke and they literally had an hour to fix their computer, and they saw my tutorial, ran to Best Buy, fixed the computer and did their show. And he made a video raving about how this dork, his words, not mine, on YouTube helped him solve a problem. And the majority of the comments on that video is, who came here because of Kodak Black? Like, which is funny to me because, like, of all of the music I love, Kodak probably wouldn't be on the top of the list. He's like 2 songs I like. He's somewhat of a one-hit wonder to me, but I can never repeat that. And that caused a whole bunch of subscribers to my channel, which ruined my channel. Those people don't watch Mac News and nerd videos about how to create YouTube. They just came because he said, and now it ruined my entire channel. So growing fast is something that we all need to put away. And I don't know if you remember what it felt like to be 12 or 13. I think maybe girls, you get it before us. But we used to wake up every morning so as hell. Why? Growing pains. Mm-hmm. Right? Your boy is about to go to this. It's painful and it's irritating and you can't sleep and you're cranky and then you get smacked a lot if you talk back to your mom. So I don't think growing fast is important. And the other thing is, I would not want to have to interview anybody on my show that I haven't already had a chance to sit down and talk with or have a brief meeting with or something of that nature. So having somebody else book somebody for my show, that's not helping me. Like I wouldn't put somebody in front of you guys that I didn't think could help you guys because I've already felt that person.
Yeah, and guests are like the thing that I would echo on that is that guests are going to be such an important part of the show that like you really want to start with like the people that are in your sphere who you really trust. Like, so in whatever background your podcast is in, right? So like this podcast is about podcasting and about video podcasting. So like when we think of guests, like I think of all of the people that I work with in the video podcasting space who I want to come onto the show. And when they have a great experience, they'll recommend someone else that says like, hey, Katie and Doc, like, have you actually met this other person? Like this person is amazing at like podcast intros. You should have them on an episode talking about that. And that like recommendation and the connections and the networking that is going to grow from that is going to be hugely valuable. And that's the fun part. So like, I guess like offboarding that to someone else and paying them to do it just feels like you're actually missing like the important part, which is the networking and the people skills and the And you have those people, no matter what your background is. Like, honestly, like I again, my other podcast is I review movies. Like, I have no shortage of friends who are like, my favorite movie from the 80s is this. I desperately want to be on the show. Like, the second we said that we would start taking guests, no shortage of it. So like, whatever field you're in, whether it's, dog grooming, you make awesome Doc Pop mic covers, you make cool little wooden signs. Like, there's someone else that's in your world that you've worked with on these kinds of projects that that is even competitive to you. Maybe you want to have like one of your competitors on your show and talk about, but yeah, Doc is absolutely right that like
competition, man.
Those connections are just so important, and keeping that level of control, I think, is really huge. You can get maybe some like guidance from some like podcast booking tools that work with big people, but I would not offboard that to someone else. Like, I think that
the
should
reason
be
why the
yours.
question is so timely, this is super funny, is I actually, just because I'm a curious individual, I was like, Katie, let's sign up for this podcast booking tool and just take a look and see how it is. And we both thought it was a really cool idea. And I won't mention the tool because we like the people, but that tool just drove me crazy because the people on it
just didn't make sense for us. Yeah.
It just didn't make sense. The way, I don't know, to me, it felt like I've never been a girl in the bar. I have worn a dress to a bar. I felt like I was getting hit on like at the bar by the dude with the like seersucker suit and the crooked tie and the cigarette breath. Hey, girl, let me be on your podcast. And I was like, no, go away. It just didn't feel good. So yeah, I think there's this misnomer of the success comes from the numbers. And I'm going to tell you, to me, the success comes from getting a message on Instagram like 5 or 6 days ago where Murray says, you know what? I still remember everything you guys taught me. Thanks for doing that. I really appreciate it. That was worth the entire show. Right? Like we're 20 something episodes in, and that happened in October in Amesbury, Massachusetts at a bar that no longer exists, sadly. And that comment meant more to me than anything else that we do. It means more to me than the hater comment. So that's important. And speaking of Murray, he had another question, which is, I think is a really, really, really good question, Dr. October.
It's a really good one.
Can a weekly podcast help a concert venue increase ticket sales? I started working on concerts and I want to help. I absolutely think so.
Yes.
Oh my God. First of all, I am a J card reader ever since a little kid. And if you don't know what a J card is, you're young. Think your knees are probably happy. But those of us that remember J cards or liner notes as they became in CD books, I used to read every single word on a liner note or a J card. And to be able to get, and actually, I guess because I come from radio, when we had a concert, the first thing we would do is, the concert's on Saturday, Coolio lands on Thursday, and we would pick him up at the airport, bring him straight to our station and have a conversation, and then, try not to posit the questions that everyone's going to ask. Oh, I heard you used to be a fireman. What was that like? Don't ask those questions. Ask cool stuff. And, we basically built relationships with tons and tons of celebrities because we would always bring them in for an interview prior to a concert. And we would always interview them with questions that they don't normally get asked at every other damn radio station in the country. And so then we became friends with most of these people, and they just enjoy whenever they would come to perform. So coming from radio and always doing those interviews first, those interviews always sold tickets. So being able to do stuff like that, or just talk about the behind the scenes, or like everyone yells at the sound man. Let me introduce y'all to Dave so y'all stop yelling at Dave. This is electronics and stuff happens. So when you hear that, they might have planned for this, but it happens. And they would talk about what that comes from and blah, blah, blah. So you can get the inside scoop. Or guess how many lights we have to fly for this REO Speedwagon show. We're going to bring in Eggshell Lighting, Dave Harmon, real person, real company. And we're going to talk to him about how many lights it takes to pull off, this particular thing. Don't talk to the sound man. He's deaf.
Yeah, don't talk to but even that would be hilarious. Like,
that would be hilarious.
There's so many cool ideas there.
Stuff. Like, yeah. Like, is there really a trap door on stage? No, look, bing, bing, bing. There's no trap door on this stage, regardless of what everybody tells you. Like, I think there's a ghost in your concert hall, in every concert hall in the planet. That's something to talk about. You and Mike did it about the bijou at Woodstock. You know, the
Yeah.
old theater that's now the Opera House, and they actually filmed the movie there. Like, that has us all intrigued. So, oh my God, I love this idea, Murray. I can't wait to see what you pull off with this. This will be super cool.
Yeah, Maury,
Yeah.
check out. I will send you a link afterwards, but check out. There's a famous theater. So this is a little bit different than a concert venue, but a theater in Canada called the Stratford Theater. They do like traditional, typically like Shakespeare productions, but also a ton of other productions. And they actually have a podcast, and they will they will go into all of the plays of their season, and they will, as Doc said, like interview, cast, directors. They'll talk, like, it's all the stories that you want to hear, right? So if you're passionate about that production or concert in your case, like, you want to hear from the team. You want to hear the behind the scenes stories, like all the things that you won't typically get anywhere else. So like, you are hilariously, this is a great follow-up to the previous question, right? Because you already have the built-in guests. Like, you have all of the performers that are going to come through. You could literally add that into like the agreement. You have all of the employees that work at the concert venue. And then you also have like random fans that you could interview and bring in who live locally, or people that are in the city or town that you're in. So there's lots of different options. But yeah, the Stratford podcast is a great one to listen to, because that's, I think, similar in function, and you might get some good ideas from the segments and the structure and how they go about it. So you can apply theater to music.
See?
Going
Awesome.
forward, if that's helpful.
And Joel and Maggie like the Stratford, so
Yay! Oh, it's a great theater.
there's a thing.
Yeah.
I was like, is this a Canadian thing that I don't know about?
It's a Canadian thing.
Can you believe there was a brief initiative to name the Stratford
Joel.
after Bieber? Oh God! Oh wow! I'm glad that initiative was super brief. Listen, guys, I just want to say, we come here and we talk these things out, basically to help you think it through. And the reality of it is, what most people need to do is just start creating shows, right?
Yeah.
When we started this, which is so crazy, nearly 100 episodes ago,
Almost 100.
was let's just get Katie more comfortable with podcasts and familiar with podcasting, because we wanted to take a strong marketing initiative for Ecamm for podcasters, because we knew it would help just because of the way the app works. And so it probably might have thought out we were going to do like maybe 10 episodes and see where it goes. As a matter of fact, I think I remember me, Katie, and Caleb sitting in the Slack or the Zoom one day going, yeah, we can do it as a 10 episode series, and then, kind of like build some content off of it. And this would be really, really cool. Here we are, episode 99. Still going, and the questions are still there, and the industry grows. And so the reality of it is, you cannot get to the fridge to get another Molson's without taking one step at a time. I just did that for Joel and Maggie.
I love it.
So you can't
Thank you.
you can't get another Molson hoser without one step. Where did that cut come from? That hoser, that's a really weird cut, but I always used it when I was a kid because of the movie, but I never really understood.
I was going to say, it's in Strange Brew. I don't know what else it's in, but yeah. Definitely. I think it was in that SCTV gag. All right, well, we're nearing the end, and I'm very aware of transitions, but Saeed asked a really fantastic question. So before we jump off and start our outro, our wrap, we should answer this question. Saeed asks, how differently do you think you'd need to structure the flow if you didn't have live comments, questions, puns in the chat, incredible people surrounding you, right? So it's a really, really good, it's like a really solid question. Yeah. Honestly, I don't think I would actually want to do a podcast without a live studio audience. I just don't think like it would work with who I am, what I'm like, how my mindset, my personality. Obviously, wouldn't really make as much sense for Ecamm, I don't think. I think it would need. I think if we didn't have, I'm interested, Doc, in your opinion too. Like I think if we didn't have live comments, I do think that we would need to probably like certainly structure it differently. We probably would need to have a little bit more of an outline or like maybe even just a list of kind of like pre questions that we could ask each other, so we made sure that we still hit all of the content that we needed. Because we have a live studio audience, I don't think we have to worry as much about that, because we know what we want to talk about. And then we know once we start talking about it, people are going to ask follow-up questions. So that's just going to like organically dive us deeper into the content. And we know that obviously, because we're answering your questions and we already set up what the topic is, we're going to hit our goal of giving you the information that you need. I think without you all, contributing to the conversation, just generally making it a more enjoyable experience, I think we would have to just make sure that we thought about you in advance in that planning phase and just had some of those questions listed out. How about you, Doc? What do you think?
Tora answered it for me. Thanks to the live interaction, I came and changed Doc's life forever. This is true,
Exactly.
Tora.
Exactly. You sure did.
Saeed, this is super funny, but I think I agree in the sense that I know everyone has seen this at somewhere point in their life. The gigantic like fishbowl, and then they put in the big rocks, and then they put in the pebbles, and then they put in the sand, and like, oh, you can't put anything else, and then they put water. The advantage of doing it live is you came with your outline, your key point. Those are your big rocks. And anytime you're asked to expound upon any subject, you can normally add more to it than if you just type it. So, it's called a callback in the industry, people. Going all the way back to Katie's answer to Natalie from the beginning, the reason why ChatGPT voice is better than a prompt is because as you talk it out, you will give it a fuller prompt. You will give it information you wouldn't have thought of when you tried to type it out. So that is like, you got your boulders, you got in your pebbles, then you put in your sand, and then when you go to add the water to fill it all out, that is what comes from the studio audience. You guys are adding the sand and the water, and then now the thing is actually full. So you really allow to fill in those gaps. It's the old joke about the Thompson's English muffins. It's all of the nooks and crannies that hold the melted butter. The best part, you family, you guys are the melted butter. And okay, I'm hungry. Stop. All right, quit.
I'm like starving, but B, I love that Saeed followed it up by saying that all podcasts need is rocks. Like it's stock rocks, which I absolutely love.
Yeah. So it's good. Perfect. And it's funny because I really do agree with Tara. The interaction, and I mean, Katie, you said it. The interaction from you guys is what makes this good. And it also makes sure that I know, even if I started to get in my own head and started questioning, are we giving any value? Are we giving any value? I don't have to ever ask that question because you guys tell us every week. Yeah. We get the comments. And to the point, I just want to remind you, I had a couple this week, which just kind of made me laugh a little bit. When you get the dumb hater comments, go look at your good ones. And luckily for Ecamm, we get a lot of good ones that goes with the crazy ones. So yeah, like for real, like my Tinkerbell juice for the last month or so has been Taisha, because she keeps coming up with questions that allows me to, answer them for her. It has been Kevin Cox. It has been even Mary Lou. So to go back again to Saeed's question, I think what I would do is I would say like Katie and I would make this podcast for say Jill, or we would make this podcast for somebody that we know and just talk to them. And in the process of pretending like we're talking to them, it would give off the same effect, but it wouldn't feel as good without Saeed and Joel's hate for Kendrick. So. Sorry, Joel. I had to sneak it in real quick.
I love it. You know what?
Really love this.
What's funny, again, just remains like hilarious to me is that even with an outline and like the help of ChatGPT and everything else, in just the structure of our show, which is a very simple structure, we are still able to hit all of our talking points without even really glancing at the outline very much. And we're able to do it in a much more kind of fun and friendly conversational way because we've created a really simple, doable structure and flow for the show. So
this show title should be Two Virgos in the Outline.
Two Virgos in the Outline.
That is a useless
new show idea.
Setup.
Trademark. We're getting the trademark for that right afterwards. It's awesome.
Oh my God. Flow Riders, you know what it is. Look, if you need to find us, you need to reach us, you need to talk to us, all you need to do is go to flow.ecam.com. You can leave us a voicemail. You can leave reviews. Reviews actually do help podcasts go a long way. So if you really like this, please take the time to send in the review to the old Apple Podcast doohickey thingy. And then, of course, posit your questions. Leave us a voicemail, whatever you want. We're always down to come in and answer whatever you have. And we also got to give a massive shout out to Captivate. That's captivate.fm. It is where we host our podcast. There's plenty of hosts out there, but the thing we love about Captivate is their growth mindset. They're really, really designed to help people like Natalie grow their podcast. And they have a built-in booking situation in Captivate, Natalie. So just use that and save yourself the money hiring Joel to book guests for you that will only talk about tacos. And so there's that. Captivate.fm and just tell them Ecam sent you. Oh, that was too good. You know what? I've been listening to Joel. Katie, I'm on my tacotarian diet. I had the most awesome tacos yesterday, and I'm listening to Joel. It's kind of working. Tacos are amazing.
I love it. Tacos are pretty amazing. I had a breakfast taco in Texas over the weekend, and I forgot how much I love a breakfast taco. So I'm in a taco space myself. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I love breakfast burritos. Literally one of my favorites.
Yes, a breakfast burrito. It was I don't know why I never think about it. Genius idea.
Oh, Market Square Bakehouse in Amesbury, Massachusetts has really good breakfast burritos.
They sure do. This episode is brought to you by Market Square Bakehouse, Tacos, Joel, all of the Ecam fam, and the incredible team.
Oh my God, this is so good. So good. Anyway, family, you know what it is. Flow Riders, out.